Okay, so we have an amazing guest with us today. This is the super. Oh gosh, it seems like we're struggling with his connection a little bit. This is Dave Palumbo. He is somebody that I have incredible respect for. So if you do not know who he is, first of all, he's on YouTube, so definitely go and check him out immediately. And he is one of the authorities, I would say, in the reptile world. And he is also a world famous bodybuilder, which you guys might know that I love working out. I've never ever been anywhere close to a pro level. And so to be able to hang out and speak with somebody as accomplished as this man is a huge honor. So, all right. I don't know if it's storming there, but he's obviously having some issues. So Tavian's World is on, so I'll just chat with you guys in the that are here in the live already. Tavian's World is on. Hey Tavian. Low Life Exotics is here. You guys that come on like every single time, I love you guys and thank you so much. And it is really fun to sort of watch you guys chat it up over here in the chat feed. You guys are awesome. So, big thanks to those of you guys who are already in the chat box. Okay, Dave, welcome.
Thank you. I don't know what's going on my camera all of a sudden.
That's
Of course,
okay.
I film all day long, and then of course I do one interview, and the camera doesn't work. So.
Well, that is just perfect because sometimes I'm having to like walk people through every step.
Yeah.
And especially like when you get like those old herpers you want to interview and they're like, "Which button do I
Well, they
push?"
want to use the rotary phone, to do the interview. Yeah. That would
Um
be my dad. My dad would want to do that.
and Tom Crutchfield is like, Stacy'll handle it."
That's
Well,
right.
little does he know you can't do it without Wi-Fi, Tom. He's like, "Just drive down here." So, we'll do that someday, but not
Yeah.
today. So, wow. So I honestly don't know where to start with you because you're so multifaceted. Um, I guess let's just jump in. So Palumbo's Pythons, nice swag. Tell me a little bit. Yes. Um, so I always have like questions in mind, but I also like to just let it flow. So
Yeah, let it
um
flow.
te- yeah, so tell us a little bit about kind of your youth and sort of how you got started in, your lifestyle that you're
Yeah,
in, whatever you were doing when you were young. Give us
yeah.
some background.
I grew up on Long Island, so it wasn't like I was in the country, going out herping all the time. But I was always like I was an animal lover, like crazy animal lover, and like my no one else in my family was. Like I was like my parents would be happy if they never had any animals. I was the guy who was bringing stuff home. My sister could care less. No one in my family. Like I go back, there was no one exposing me to anything because no one cared about animals, which is the weird thing. And I was consumed with them. Like I wanted to have everything, And so um, I finally worked them into letting me get hamsters. That was
That was
the
your
entrance
gateway
the
pet.
entrance pet. Yeah, the entrance pet for me. And then I got fish, and then I talked them into a bird. And I really wanted cats. I wanted Persian cats for some reason. I was obsessed with Persian cats. I wanted to
All
breed them,
right.
and I actually did breed them back in the night.
Oh no. I'm dying to hear about Persian cat breeding. So, Spiders Infected just jumped on. Thank you so much for coming from Germany. And if you guys have any questions for Dave, definitely drop them in the chat and I'll be watching that. But he is such an interesting man. There's so many things we can talk about. I'm just basically dying to hang out and do this one on one with him. And he's not someone I've ever met before, so this was really amazing that he was able to make time for me. This is kind of a funny time of day because I happen to be off work for the holiday. And he said that he would be available like on a weekday at some time. So I said, "Ooh, I have just the date for you." So let's see. Spiders Infected is from Germany. Tavians and Lowlife, where are you guys from? That is something I don't know. Tavians has a channel, I know. Lowlife, You sound super familiar, but I'm not sure if it's because maybe we interact on socials or if it's because you have a channel as well, but definitely let us know in the comment feed. Okay,
Yeah.
so Dave, Persian cats, let's do it.
So yes, I actually bred Persian cats back in the 90s. Once I had my own house, I built my own little room and I bought a whole bunch of like cats. And this is when you had to like go look in like Cat Fancier magazine
Right.
and you couldn't, there was no internet back then. So,
Right.
this was like, we're talking like early 90s really. So
Right.
I did that for a while. But anyway, when I was a kid, I had nothing basically because they wouldn't let me really have anything. Like I couldn't. So I finally my mom had gotten sick and gotten cancer. So she felt bad. I think because she knew I wanted a cat. So they got me a cat. And so that kind of was also that I was like, I'm consumed with animals. And I started working in pet stores like in the summers and bringing home, setting up tanks and all kinds of kooky stuff. And one year I actually worked at this place called Petland Discounts. And I had this job where I would clean, snake poop, bird poop, aquariums. It was big on fish, and I was I
Right.
was really good with fish. And I met these two guys that were really into snakes, and I knew nothing about snakes or reptiles, and
Hmm.
they knew all the Latin names of everything like this, and so they would quiz me, and I felt inadequate around them. And I was like a student. I was like a guy who was going to be going to college the next year. I was going to I was in the pre-med program. I was going to be a doctor. And so I was really science driven. So these guys had so much more knowledge than me that it was driving me crazy. So I would go home and study the books and learn all their Latin names and, of the Burmese pythons, which was a big thing back then. And
Right.
ball pythons really weren't really big back
No,
then. This
they
is
didn't become popular until
yeah.
2 decades later, maybe.
All the ball pythons would come in basically, wild caught with mites and they
Yeah.
would die. They wouldn't eat or anything
Hmm.
like that. But berms were kind of popular. This one guy had an Indian python, and
Mm.
I think one of them had like some boas and stuff like that. So I used to go to their house and hang out, and like those were like my new friends. And then I went away to college. Right after that, I only worked there like 3 months, and
Hmm.
I actually bought a Burmese python baby, and it was obviously wild caught. And I brought it with me to college, and I had it there for like 3 years. And it got big, and it was like a pet, type of thing. And
Wait,
that was
hold
like,
on. Did you say your Berm's name was Baby?
no, no, it wasn't named baby.
Okay, I was like, the
I bought it
record.
as a baby, and then it
Oh,
grew as
okay. I
it went
thought
there.
you
But
were saying that you owned Baby, the world record Berm. Okay, sorry,
no,
sidetrack.
this one's name was Sting,
Oh,
and it's funny. I never got bit by it except once, and I was studying. Had an organic chemistry final, and organic chemistry was the one subject I didn't do well in because I didn't like all the memorization involved with it. And so I
hmm,
was a little nervous about the thing anyway, about the test I had to take. And I was feeding this snake like maybe a half hour, an hour before the test. And I wasn't paying attention, and I was wiggling the thing, and it bit my hand and
oh,
it wrapped me, and it was a nice, nasty bite. And if you get a
ooh,
good bite from a berm,
yeah,
it bleeds forever because they have like an
hmm,
anticoagulant in their saliva. And so I was like, I had to go like wrapped up with bandages to go take this test. Which I really wasn't doing very well at that subject anyway. But so that was my reptile. And then after that, I kind of sold him to someone. Like I think when I went to medical school after college, I couldn't really take him with me. He was too big. And so I didn't really have reptiles until probably 2010. I was doing a radio show on my bodybuilding network on RX Muscle YouTube channel. And someone heard me talk about the fact that I had snakes years ago and I hadn't had them. And he actually came over to my house and he brought me an egg, a ball python egg in an incubator, a little mini
wow,
incubator. And that was my first ball python I ever had, really. And I still have it to this day. She's actually going to lay a clutch of eggs any day. And she's 10 years old. And so that got me back into reptiles. So I started, going to these reptile expos, which I didn't know existed. I didn't even know there was albino snakes or anything like that. I was so out of it for so long. So I started getting, you get bit by the bug and you want everything. And I wanted to get into boas because I couldn't believe how the boas looked, with the morphs and everything
right,
like that and the albinos. So someone told me, hey, on Long Island, there's a guy, Vin Russo, you should really contact. He wrote the book, The Complete Boa Constrictor. He has some good stuff. So I emailed him. I wanted to maybe come down to his facility and buy some stuff, but he didn't really let people go to his facility because I think he had some robbery problems. And he's like, well,
yeah,
I'm going to be at the White Plains reptile show. Why don't you meet me there? So I was like, okay. So I went to the show that weekend and I was kind of going around video interviewing people like I do. I figured if I could interview people for bodybuilding, I'll start a reptile channel. At this point, I
Yeah,
really didn't have that many
definitely.
people watching it, but I started interviewing people, asking, and that's how I was learning about reptiles, really, by interviewing other people who were breeders and asking all the questions that I had in my mind, which is pretty much the questions that everyone has, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the very end of the day, I passed by this table and this guy yells out to me, "Hey, you." I turn around and I see Cutting Edge Herp, and I realize it's obviously Vin Russo's table. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're Vin. Yeah, we were emailing. He's like, I know you. And I said, oh, yeah, we were emailing. And he's like, no, I know you. And so I figured, well, maybe, he's a bodybuilding. He follows
Right.
bodybuilding because obviously I was very well known in the bodybuilding industry. He's like, no. I know you. We worked together at Petland Discounts in 1986. He goes, you had a Pontiac Grand Prix with
Oh my
T-Tops.
gosh.
So one of the guys that I worked with was Vin Russo, ironically enough. He had long hair and at the
You
time.
didn't
And
remember his name at all?
no, because we called him Vinny back then. I didn't know. You would never, you wouldn't, I mean, if you would recognize him, but you wouldn't, because he has short hair now. He had like long hair. And I used to hang out at his house. And so we became friends. And so then I bought a bunch of snakes from him. And that's really how I got kind of immersed into the industry. And he actually started coming to I had a warehouse for my nutrition company, Species Nutrition. He would come to my studio and we were doing some TV shows. Some of the first Muscle Serpents University YouTube channel stuff that we did was with Vin Russo and talking about boas and dwarf boas and all that kind of good stuff. And so that's how I really got into it. So it's funny how he introduced me in '86 to reptiles, and then he reintroduced me back, in 2014 back into the trade again. So
That is an incredible story. It's
yeah.
funny that the animal world is such a small world. It's
The entire world is a small world. That's what I found out.
that's true.
Yeah.
So, that is wow, an epic tale.
Yeah.
So tell me, so first of all, my question to you is, of course, this is not as niche of an industry as it used to be, but still, the reptile industry and reptile keepers are really kind of thought of as like the creepy outcast people. I was just talking to my friend today. He has a zoo, and he does a lot of venomous, and people don't like it. They think it's really scary. People hate
Yeah.
snakes.
Yeah.
People tell me every day, I just can't. I can't believe you do that. I can't believe you keep that stuff, and just with disgust. And so growing up as a child, you had this fascination, this passion for animals. And it's not that I wouldn't say you were supported, but it's not like your dad was Steve Irwin and so you grew up loving animals. This was
Yeah.
some like intrinsic passion,
Yeah.
love that you
Yeah.
had, and without people around you, because we have online communities now, and it's interesting that if you have some desire to spend time with balloons, you will find other people on the internet who
I say
desire.
it all the time. You're 100% right.
Yeah, and so now it's a whole different community. I mean, the fact that the whole worldwide community of reptile lovers can get together, it's not so isolating. But growing up, you truly were alone in your passion.
Mm.
So how did you not get discouraged, and were there times when you kind of felt like maybe you should just give it up? Or obviously your parents didn't want to let you have any kind of animals. Tell us about that a little bit.
You know what I found, and early on I just intuitively knew this: if you do what you like, it doesn't even matter what anyone else thinks. Okay.
Yes.
And I find that because I'm the kind of person, and I always tell people, if you're going to do something and you really like something, and people might not agree with you or they might think you're crazy. I mean, like, I left medical school to be a bodybuilder. I mean, you think luckily my father was a supportive dad and didn't ever tell me what to do. He always said, you know what, you're your own man, you make your own decisions. But I mean, he could have told me, he could have beat the crap out of me, told me that you're not leaving medical school,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, did they
So,
pay for your schooling? Were they upset?
well, I mean, I had somewhat. He did. He paid for undergrad, but I was taking loans for the med school. But he just said, "Look, you're your own man. I'll never tell you what to do," because he grew up in a different type of household. The old Italians, they whack the crap out of you, and so he wasn't going to be that kind of a father. So maybe he had opened my mind so because he never restricted me in a sense that I was able to believe in myself. But I always said, you know what? I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to put 100% into something I'm going to do, I can't fail, because there's no such thing as failure if you don't give up. The only way you fail is when you stop. I always tell people, if you want to be a successful reptile breeder, breed reptiles. If the only way you can fail is if you stop breeding them. And unfortunately, a lot of people stop right before they're successful because they think they're not going to be successful. And so there's never been an animal I wanted, or in bodybuilding, there's never been like a goal that I've set that I haven't been able to achieve, because I'll put it all on the line to go after that, because I know that if I'm giving everything of myself and I'm not holding back and I'm not just kind of like half-assing it, I know that I'll be successful in it. And I think that if more people believe that, then I think that there would be a lot more successful people out there and happy people out there. Instead, people kind of like, they're afraid, so they kind of like take the conservative approach. They have like, they're afraid to leave that position they're in to go where they really want to, because they're like, well, my father said I'm a loser if I don't have a job, packing groceries, because breeding snakes is for ridiculous people. You can't believe that. You have to believe in your head that you can make it happen. I tell people this all the time I have people who want a certain snake from me. They're obsessed with this snake, and they know that this high-end snake is going to get them someplace and is going to enable them to produce really nice stuff down the road. But it's the number on that snake is too much for them to conceptualize. Like, they don't feel like they deserve it almost, or that maybe someone, their wife or their parents are going to tell them they're crazy for spending that much money. But they know that if they got that snake, that they're going to achieve. And I always tell people, don't ever live with regrets. If you want something that bad, you will not fail, because you will spend, your hard-earned savings. You might borrow, you might have to use a credit card, whatever the case may be. You're not going to allow yourself to fail because you have so much invested in it. It's like someone who hires me to do a diet for them. If they're a friend of mine and I'm saying, I don't really want to charge you for a diet. If I don't charge them for a diet and they don't put value on that diet that I'm giving them and the coaching I'm giving them to lose the weight, they'll never lose the weight. You have to have something on the line. You have to be vulnerable. You have to have something to lose, or give up, or you won't be successful, I find.
It's an investment.
Yes.
Awesome. So I was curious, as obviously I would say that the lifestyle or career of a bodybuilder as well as a reptile breeder would be considered like an unconventional path. And I would imagine that there were a lot of sacrifices that you had to make along those roads. I remember watching an interview with Jason Momoa, obviously super famous actor, highly sought after, considered the most beautiful man in the world. He's popular. He's a household name.
I love him. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, him saying that he drove, I don't remember all the details, but something to the effect of that he drove cross country in a beat up truck to the set of, or to the auditions for the Game of Thrones, the Drogo character, and like slept in his truck, had like no money, or I'm like, that must have been before you met Lisa.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, he did some TV shows. I used to watch him on Stargate, which
he was, and he was on Baywatch too.
Right. Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, so that's interesting because those were some pretty big roles. Like, those were very popular shows, but he didn't just take off from there. And so, two things about that. Number one, I think a lot of people think, oh, if I just had this one break, or oh, if I just had this one animal, I'm going to make it, I'm going to arrive. And it's a whole journey for one. But also, too, that you have to, if you have a passion, a dream, a really amazing goal. I mean, for example, I'm a school teacher. I wanted to be a school teacher. I went to college. I became a school teacher. That's a pretty run-of-the-mill goal. But also some of the other things I do are less conventional. And there are days when people discourage me and I feel discouraged. And I have to say, oh, thanks for the super chat. That's so awesome. We do have some questions here for you. I'll get to you guys, I promise. But tell us about some of the times when you were kind of down and out and you pushed through and it made it worthwhile in the end. Because those are the stories I think people need to hear.
Right. I think that, when I was a kid, I was everything came very easy to me. I was very smart. I was a good athlete. I was very, just like
Handsome, obviously.
no, but I'm just saying things came very easy to me. I was one of those kids, like the lucky star over his head. And then I think it was when I was 14, my mother got, or 13 or 14, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. She had got pancreatic cancer and she died. It's been over 2 years. It was a brutal, if anyone's gone through cancer, it's a terrible type of situation. And I lost all confidence in myself, I think, is a better way to be, because that's what was at the age, like around 15, when kids are starting to develop and some of the other kids were getting bigger, and
Right.
I think I was like just escaping, like I wasn't really applying myself because things came so easy to me. I didn't really have to work that hard. So now
Mm-hmm.
people were like passing me by a little bit, and and I was starting to have doubts. And when you have doubts, okay, you act on the doubts. And I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
achieving what I thought I needed to be. It took me. I still got into college and I still got into medical school, but I had to start like almost reinventing myself again and creating a belief. So that was a very difficult
Hmm.
time for me to go through. And I didn't really deal with it emotionally till about 25 years after the case. So I probably should have been like in like, I should have probably been seeing a therapist or something like that, but I wasn't. I just kind of avoided, all the emotions. And so, and I think boys do that a lot anyway, but they suppress all that stuff. So that was a difficult time, because I wasn't coming easy, and I had to build up that confidence back in myself. And to be honest with you, bodybuilding really did that. At first, I was a runner, a long distance runner in college,
Mm-hmm.
which was a very individualistic sport. To go from
Right.
soccer and team sports to that, and then to switch to bodybuilding, it was like I can rely exclusively on myself. I didn't have to worry about anyone else. I did all my own studying about nutrition and diet and
Right.
supplementation and training. And I immersed myself in that, and I wanted to prove that I could be something special in that. And I at some point, I achieved in bodybuilding a level or a status where people respected what I achieved, like to a point where, like, holy mackerel, how did he do that? And
Right.
that was what I wanted to achieve, so that I could then educate people how to do it. I'm like to learn how to do things that are complicated, and then take those complicated, things and break them down simplistically so that people can do it. I do that with the Reptile Channel too. I try to take these breeding, things that seem like very hard to do, and explain it on a simplistic level. But that was something I had to teach myself. And probably if I hadn't lost my mom at a young age, I probably would never have been that self-reliant on myself. I might have been more dependent on her, and I wouldn't have
Right.
developed that level of having to really go inside and trust my own instincts and believe in myself only. And I always had a very supportive father. So it wasn't like he wasn't in the picture, but you go through these levels of doubt. Later down the road, I actually had a legal issue with with the whole performance enhancing, aspect of
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilding. And I actually wound up doing some jail time because of it, because of the whole Balco scandal and, growth hormone. And I actually did 5 years in a federal prison because of that, and
Wow.
because I wasn't willing to cooperate with them and to turn anyone in. So that was another point, a pivotal point in my career, where I was very successful, but now here I was taken down a few notches. And
Right.
I never really thought that I always tell people I'm not better than anyone. I'm just at the same level as everyone else. I just maybe have a few more opportunities than someone else might have had. And I took advantage of those. But so I had to then reinvent myself again. It wasn't like I doubted myself, but I had to start, thinking about what I really wanted to do. And I think that the
Right.
importance of being successful, and this might be a little bit of a long-winded answer, is that
No,
you
no,
have to
please.
constantly reinvent yourself and believe in what you happen to be passionate about now, and not worry about, what, I spent 5 years going to school, I have to follow that path. No, that you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to. You follow the path that you think is where you need to be, or what you're interested in. And I always tell people, I never really worked a job a day in my life, because everything I did was always things that I liked to do. And the good thing was that I enjoyed every job I ever had, and I work more hours at my jobs than anyone else does, because I enjoy it so much. So whether
That's
it's
good.
bodybuilding or breeding snakes, I spend a ridiculous amount of time devoted to it, because I actually enjoy doing it, and that's why I'm successful at it.
Right. Very interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
So, so where did you? So obviously, your life took a huge turn.
yeah.
When you went to federal prison, that was probably so. After you got out, what did you do to start getting on the path that you chose again?
Well, what I had been competing, in bodybuilding at a very high
Hmm.
level, and I
Right.
was successful. I mean, I was doing like seminars and guest appearances at shows like every weekend. And, that's could be $2,500 cash, in your pocket every weekend, 35 weekends out a year. It's a good amount of money. I was working for a couple of supplement companies, and I wanted to always start my own company. So when I went to jail for that 5 months, it was like taking inventory of my life. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop competing now. There's no reason to keep competing. I've already achieved, whatever level of success I did
Mm-hmm.
and notoriety. Now I'm going to focus on starting my own nutrition company, which is something I always wanted to do. Because one of the reasons I left medical school after 3 years was that I didn't like the fact that doctors just treated illness and that they didn't preventatively explain to people how to eat properly and take
Right.
supplementation and keep yourself healthy to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely not even something that they even, literally the nutrition part of medical school is one day. They got a guy coming in there and saying, vitamin C is necessary so you don't get scurvy, and I'm like, when was the last case of scurvy on the Mayflower? I mean, there's no relevance. They don't know anything about nutrition in medical school. They only care about prescription drugs. So I left that disillusioned, and I said, you know what? I want to start my own nutrition company so that I can provide people with high quality nutrition supplements with effective formulas where it takes the thinking out of things for people, and they could take these supplements and enhance their health with it. So I started my own nutrition company, and then I was going to a lot of these bodybuilding shows when I got out of prison and covering them for my website. I had like a fledgling Palumbo.com website. I would take pictures and put them up there. This was before Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah.
And people were going there, and I was like, becoming. It was like I had like an Instagram account, only I did it on my own personal website.
Right.
So one of the big magazine publishers contacted me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come start our website." And the website was Muscular Development at the time. And I launched their website as the editor-in-chief, and they gave me a really high-paying, very good job. And so here I am leaving this like terrible like situation, and now I'm given this like literally like 6 months later, I start my own nutrition company, and I have an amazing paying job doing everything I love, traveling all over the world covering bodybuilding shows. So I became like, a reporter in a sense. And, but I was also able to use my creativity to craft this website. And then eventually 3 years after that, I started my own website, rxmuscle.com, which was a bodybuilding and fitness website and media site. And then of course that became the RX Muscle YouTube channel when YouTube really skyrocketed. So here, I could have taken that time that I was put down and gotten depressed and become an alcoholic or, done drugs and just given up. But instead I used it as a way to reinvent myself and immerse myself into something that I can do long-term that had no bearing on my physical prowess or, if I was going to have an injury or not have an injury. It wasn't all about me anymore. It was about me now providing information to people. And so that's important. It's important because a lot of people can't get past that. This is who I am. I'm not this anymore. I don't want to live anymore, and a lot of people die young because of that, because they can't reinvent themselves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, either professionally or literally. Yeah, that's very true. So, Gypsy Boy TV is all excited that you're on here, and first he was saying like, "Wait, I know that guy," and then so he's all excited.
Cool.
Low Life Exotics saying that he remembers seeing you in bodybuilding competitions on TV. So that is very cool. He dropped a little super chat down there. Moon over Miami really wants to say hello, Dave.
Hey.
So I'm not sure how to say this person's name. But they said they want to know what your plan is if Florida cracks down on large constrictor keeping. It seemed like not long ago when you moved to where you are now.
I
So that's
know.
a good question.
Well, New York, I'm a New Yorker, for life,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. My whole life I lived in New York, except for the 4 years I went to college in Pennsylvania. But so there's no like Burmese pythons and big constrictors allowed in New York. They've been outlawed forever there. So I didn't have any of those there. But when I moved to Florida, because my wife's from Cape Coral here, and so we had a child, and we decided we're going to move down here, and I moved my whole operation down here, and I built a reptile room and a snake room for myself here. I wanted to get berms because I can have them here, right? So I got them. I got my conditional species license. They come out and inspect you and everything. I did everything by the book, and I bought into a lot of big projects. And as if you watch my videos on Muscle Serpents University, you'll see all this, snake videos I do. And I was just got into the pied Burmese project and the
Oh,
champagnes, and I've been producing hypo granites that are albino and green for a couple of years now. And so when
nice.
this law went down recently, last year it actually went down. The state passed a law against them, and then they overturned the law. U.S. ARC
Right.
overturned it, and then Florida Fish and Wildlife just passed the law like a couple of weeks ago, and banning the big constrictors like the Burmese, retics, rock pythons,
Anacondas.
amethystine pythons, and then
Hmm.
of course you got the lizards that they have on that list now, the tegus and iguanas, green iguanas. But so now I have no alternative. So once again, I got very depressed at first because I'm like, I
Hmm.
really love these snakes. I mean, I really really enjoy them. You can't
Right.
have 100 of them like you do ball pythons because they're so big and they take up a lot of space. But I got into really like a good quality group of them,
Hmm.
and they're like having like a bull mastiff. It's like a big dog. They're so loyal. They don't. I mean, it's like literally they never want to go back in the cage. They're like they have like a real personality. These things. I
They
love them.
do.
And right. I mean, so I was so depressed. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? So I started talking about it on my YouTube channel, and a lot of people reached out to me, breeders of these berms around the country, and
Hmm.
literally said, look, I want to buy these things from you. I'm going to continue breeding them. Some of them wanted to do breeding loans. Some of them, I said, look, just, you know what, let me sell them to you. As long as you're going to take the project and continue it, then I'll be happy. At least I got to breed them a couple of years. And so I sold the berm project. Those are going to be picked up soon. I had three breeder size. I sold my champagne, albino champagne
Hmm.
project, and I have my hypogranites that are still, I have a pair that are still going. And I have actually, the hypogranites actually laid a 19 eggs. So I have a 19 egg clutch in the incubator still. So I don't know what Florida Fish and Wildlife's, there's probably going to be I
Some sort of
guess,
grace period or
grace
something.
period, right? It sucks. I really would like to see if I can maybe keep two or something like that as for educational purposes.
Right.
I know they won't let you breed them, but at least just to have as pets, that would be really nice. So I'm trying to look into that. The whole banning of these animals is ridiculous because they had a really good system in place that was this conditional species license. So in other words,
Hmm.
you can't anyone can't get this. You have to apply for it. They come to your facility. You have to have lock cages. You have to have.
Hmm.
There's so many little stipulations here, and I went through all those steps, and to me, that was the right thing to do because now the berms are in the hands of people who are responsible. If
Hmm.
you now ban these, you know what happens. Look, cocaine is illegal in this country, right? You can still get cocaine anywhere you want in this country,
Right.
however, anytime you want through the black market. That's what's going to happen. The people who want berms in Florida, not people like me who are responsible breeders, but the people who
Right.
want to have them as pets are going to find them through the black market. And that's the worst people you want handling these things because they're not going to be responsible. Those are the people that will let them go if
Yeah.
they can't have them
Yeah.
anymore.
It kind of takes the accountability away
Right.
from it.
Yes. They completely had a system that worked and they completely destroyed that system that worked, thinking they were doing better by getting rid of them. But you would have to be a moron to think that you're going to really get rid of these snakes if people really want them. Because, like drugs, people will find what they want. And a matter of fact, it might even be a higher priority now, animal, because now people think, oh, it's illegal. I really want it now, right?
Hmm.
Because not everyone else has one.
Right.
So to me, it's a shame they did that. Obviously, I'm about following the law, so I'm going to do what's necessary, even though it's not happy. Luckily, that wasn't the gist of my breeding program wasn't just berms. Obviously,
Right.
boas and ball pythons and carpets are my big thing, but it was disappointing.
Yeah, definitely a huge blow. So there's a lot of obviously I believe that reptile laws should be made by people who are heavily educated in that species of animal or even
Yeah,
something similar, um, and people that are familiar with the industry because it's a huge industry that it builds the economy.
right.
It's educational. I mean, there's so many awesome things
Yeah,
about snake keeping that Florida is just it's like cutting off their own nose. I mean,
Well, here's the,
there
you know what the
you
problem is, what people don't realize, there's already a Burmese python problem in the Everglades.
right,
Okay. You should have banned them before before they were released. It's too late now. So they're out there already. No one's albino Burmese python is getting out into their backyard and populating, their backyard with albino
right,
Burmese pythons in the wild. They're not going to live out there. We know that. Okay. And that established population that's probably taken 30 years to establish itself in the Everglades is done, and it's over with. You're not stopping anything now by restricting these snakes anymore. It's just
right,
it's too late already. So at this point, you might as well have a system like you had, where you just
right.
you regulate who has the snakes, and you give out licenses based on responsibility.
Well, and it's based on faulty arguments that they're going to
Yeah,
come and eat people's children, that they're going to hurt the ecosystem.
right.
What about domestic house cats?
They
I
want to
mean,
get rid of those too. I got news for you. They want to get rid of dogs and cats here in Florida. Did you know that?
I believe it. I do believe it.
The PETA people would love to. They want to get rid of
Right.
breeding dogs and cats.
Yeah, they want to fight for their rights and euthanize them. Yeah, that makes
Idiotic.
perfect sense.
Yeah,
Basically, if it all boils down to money, I feel like, and control. And
yeah,
for the most part, when you look into like PETA makes so much money, and all these little old ladies that are donating money to PETA,
yeah,
they think that the money is somehow going toward animal welfare. And
yeah.
you and I know that it's all it is it goes for lobbying against animals almost completely.
We should be
And so,
happy that people are breeding these animals to keep them, conserve them, because the wild populations of these animals are being decimated.
right.
Okay, because of urbanization and people knocking down forests and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So the only way we're going to keep these animals alive, just like we keep the tigers and the elephants, is that we keep them in zoos, right? So the only way to keep these reptiles species going, especially the very esoteric ones that no one even knows
Mhm.
about, is to breed them in captivity. So we should be happy that we're doing this, and they should be happy that it's being done in a responsible manner. So
Right. Well, on that note, I'm assuming that you've read Dave and Tracy Barker's book, The Invisible Arc, which talks all about that. And so
yeah,
basically, what they're saying is that all of us together individually create one massive conservation entity, and that zoos can't do it all, for one,
yep,
and that animals' habitats are being destroyed. And really, no matter what kind of like green laws you pass, um in developing nations, they're more concerned about survival, first of all.
mhm.
And it's just not realistic to think that if we all start recycling our beer cans, that it's going to save. I mean, come on. What is a good solution is having a whole army of people that are spending their own time, their own money, their own knowledge. I mean, it's
Yeah,
each one of us is a little worker army ant, and it
yep,
might be one little old lady with a canary and one little 7-year-old
right.
boy with a leopard gecko, and then the crazy people like us that have big collections of stuff.
you know,
And
I
all together, we're doing the world an important
Yeah,
service.
no, you're right, and that's how they sequence the DNA, the human DNA genome. Originally, they had it was going to take like 12 years or something like that, and it was going to cost like $20 billion. And they started, people started, individual labs started doing their own work and developing their own procedures to be able to sequence these things faster. And everyone put their work together, and we got it done in like a fraction of the time for a fraction of the cost. So it's always better to employ large groups of people who are very passionate about what they're doing and like what they're
Right.
doing. It's going to make the job easier rather than having the onus be on only zoos that can't do it because they don't have enough personnel
Well,
or
yeah,
enough
I
money.
mean, oh yeah, or enough time, or enough space, or enough
Yeah,
anything compared to all of us put together. I think
yeah,
it's a crime that they're passing these laws that are ultimately going to possibly result in the demise of many species. It's
sure.
disgusting.
Yeah.
I hate it. Um okay, some more people are on and they really want to say hi to you.
Okay.
So Cat's on, Mr. Grindler's Creatures, Jaden came on. So
Hey guys.
there's a young viewer named Aaron, and his channel is Gypsy Boy TV, and he wants you to know that he has autism.
Okay.
And yes, you're very cool, Aaron, and we love yeah, his channel is fascinating. I love watching
I'll have to
ours.
check it out. Yeah, that sounds
Subscribe
great.
to him.
I
Um,
was trying to tell, I try to tell all these young kids who are into animals that, even the girl who helped me cleans up all my snake tubs. I'm like, you should start a channel. I said, because you're around all these animals, and we live in where we live it's a very, a lot of woods and wild snakes around and stuff. I said, just start filming. It's so easy to start a channel. People feel overwhelmed at starting their own YouTube or Instagram.
right.
Just put stuff up. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be a certain way. Just put it up every day. Do it like you
Yeah,
brush your teeth.
I
You brush your
totally
teeth twice a
agree.
day. You put up a picture every single day or 2 pictures a day of something interesting. Write a little comment about it. It could be a trip to your supermarket where you just happen to see something that a food source that you like. Oh, I happen to like this new Nutri-Grain product. It doesn't matter. Just start putting stuff up there. And if you're into animals, start putting animal stuff up there on a regular basis. Even if it's on someone else's channel or someone else's page, grab that picture and say, hey, look, I saw this on so-and-so's channel. This is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And people will start saying, holy mackerel, I want to join this page. I got news for you. There's bodybuilding channels out there that take what I do and what all these other channels do, and they just put the best of that stuff that they happen to like from other channels on their page.
That's
They got
true.
more views they got more people following their page than on my page, and they're using my stuff. They're not even putting up original content. So just start. I'm telling you, I tell people that all the time. Don't worry about monetization, about how you can make $1 million like Ryan
Right.
from Ryan's Toy Review. Just do it. And then the success will come the longer you do it.
Right, and the more dedicated you are.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a perfect segue into. So I wanted to talk to you about what made you decide to go online with your public persona. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the real you, but social media and YouTube. How did you make that leap from it being lifestyle career and then to
Mhm.
going online? Because some people just are so frightened by it. I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting to hear like your thought process and the physical steps that you took.
Yeah. Well, with bodybuilding, it's all about, how you look, right? It's pictures
Mhm.
and poses and hitting shots and double bicep poses and all that stuff. So when social media came out, it was a good way to showcase, what we were doing. And I had, like I said,
Mhm.
there was really this, even before Facebook was about, there was, I had my
MySpace.
DavePalumbo.com website that I had
Okay.
launched. And I started putting up like stuff. I was selling videos, of training videos and some
Mhm.
pictures autographed. People would buy 8x10 pictures. It was a big thing back in the day where I would sign pictures for people and they'd hang them up on the wall if they were bodybuilding fans. And so what I would do is I had a little gallery on there. So when I would go to a bodybuilding show, and I was going to a lot of shows because I was coaching people, I was competing, I would have like a friend of mine just taking pictures with a throwaway camera. Remember those throwaway cameras?
Yeah.
And we'd have to take them to get developed, and we'd get the pictures, and then we'd scan them on a scanner, and I put them up on my website, and people actually were interested because not everyone could travel every weekend to a different show. So
Right,
they were
right.
noticing, oh, look, he's here, he's with this bodybuilder. So it was like I said, it was like a precursor almost to Facebook. And so people really liked it. And I was like, oh, this thing, something to this thing here. And so when Facebook and Instagram came around, obviously, I started realizing that, there's power to this because people will know who you are. And remember, people have a very short attention span. If
Mhm.
you could be the most popular bodybuilder or the best reptile breeder, if you are out of the game for 6 months, no one knows who you are. No one knows who you are anymore, except for the old, people who've been around forever.
Right.
So if you want to stay relevant, you have to keep your face out there. So I was doing this with bodybuilding continuously because that was my job. And
Mhm.
then when I decided to start breeding reptiles, I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own channel. I don't know where it's going to go or anything like that, but I'm just going to start. If I could interview a bodybuilder, I can interview a reptile breeder.
Yeah.
If I could explain why you need to take a fiber supplement or a protein, a whey protein supplement, I could explain, how you set up a reptile enclosure or how you breed a ball python or how you pull an egg clutch. And so I just started doing the videos and I started I'm not shy of the camera because I had already been doing it with bodybuilding. So it
Mhm.
was an easy transition for me. And I tell people, at first you're going to suck. You're going to be terrible. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to stutter. You're not going to know what to say. that's normal. That's normal. And no one even cares. I said, because you know what? In 2 weeks, no one will remember what you did 2 weeks ago. And you'll get better and better and better as you do it. Don't be a perfectionist. Just start putting up stuff.
I
Speak
think some
naturally.
people
Don't try to
even like
prepare
to,
a script or anything like that.
yeah.
Just speak from the heart. And, you know, I remember that I watched this girl's channel. What's her name? I forget. Solid Gold or something like that. She's got goldfish. She was breeding goldfish. I remember this girl. And I saw her channel. I'm like, you know what? She's got like 2 goldfish when she first started. Now she's like she's got a huge freaking channel with 1 million subscribers, you know, or something like that.
Crazy.
And, you know, it all started because she was just showcasing her goldfish she had in her house. And she just happened to be interesting and have an interesting look to her. And so you never know. Believe me, you can never tell. I know people that have crazy followings and they're making $50,000 a month on YouTube. And you would never in a million years suspect that these people would have been successful because for some reason, something about their personality or something they're doing is right. And YouTube liked them and the audience liked them. So you got to just start and don't even worry about, you know, do you sound good? Are you editing the video well? Just start.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that sometimes viewers actually, as you kind of gain a following, they actually enjoy sort of watching that progression or
You're right.
even going back and saying, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that video that they did 2 years ago is hilarious. You know, I
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
seeing my old stuff, except that I look young and cute. Now
Yeah.
I'm old and haggard, but I'm pretty good on camera.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now I have a good voice and I'm confident on camera. I just look like I'm like my age. That's all, unfortunately.
Let's see. Gypsy Boy TV wants you to know that he's almost 23. He's leaving lots of little messages.
Cool.
Kat Moore is saying hello. And
Hello.
yeah, we've got people kind of chatting with each other in the chat.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about the people in your life. You've obviously got a wife and a little one.
Yeah, I got a late start. I was, you know, bodybuilding is a very selfish sport. So,
Right.
you know, a lot of traveling involved, a lot of just worrying about yourself. Are you eating 6 times a day, sleeping enough? So I always knew that I wasn't ready to have kids at a young age until I was done with the bodybuilding because I didn't want to be that absentee dad, you know, type of thing. So I met my wife and we had kind of known each other, but we kind of started dating in 13. And then we decided obviously to get married. We had my son in 16, and then we moved to Florida, and then we had two more. So I'm an older dad. I'm 53 now, and I have a year and a half old, 18-month-old. So yeah, and so I have a 5, a 3, and an 18 and a half. But you know what? I'm at a good age because it's like I'm not too old, but I'm at a mature age where I can actually be a responsible dad. I can put my kids ahead of myself and make them first and stuff like that. And so it works. You know, it definitely works for me.
That's awesome. A mature dad. I like that. Yeah, I kind of did it the opposite way. I had all my kids when I was young and dumb and energetic. And now I'm glad because they're all grown up and I'm not 100
You're
years
done.
old
Yeah,
yet.
you're done. Exactly. You did
Yeah,
your good
so
deeds already.
you were smart. You did all your cool stuff at a young age. I'm doing my cool stuff now. So
Well, the difference is that the cool stuff that I did had to be done at a young age. Like I couldn't be bodybuilding, you know, I couldn't start bodybuilding at 50. I wouldn't have been a good bodybuilder. So I had to get all the stuff out of the way that I had to do when I was young. Now I'm all beat up with my body. So it doesn't matter anymore because now I can do the dad stuff and the reptile breeding. I don't need to have 25-inch arms, you know, anymore.
they're pretty close there. They're pretty
No,
close.
they're not even close. You know what? The truth is I weigh 185. People always ask me, I weigh 185 pounds. I'm very lean, of course, but
yes.
When I was competing, I was in the off season when I would, you know, get big, I would be over 300 pounds and I would compete at, you know, anywhere from like 270 pounds to 280 pounds. I was one of the bigger bodybuilders. I mean, that's 100 pounds more muscle than I have right now. So for me,
wild.
It is a big difference, but you know, my kids look at me, my son thinks like I used to be the Incredible Hulk. And now he's like, hi, Daddy, how come you're not the Hulk anymore? I'm like, I said, I'm Banner right now. I'm staying at Banner.
Yeah,
I don't need to be the
but
Hulk.
don't make me angry.
Don't make me angry. Exactly. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. You know? I actually played the Incredible. It's funny. I actually was a big, huge Incredible Hulk fan growing up in the 70s. And Lou Ferrigno was like my hero. Yeah. And ironically, I'm actually proud to say I can call him a very close friend of mine right now. and we text each other, talk to each other all the time. And it's funny because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I played the Incredible Hulk actually on the Conan O'Brien show. They did as a comedy skit. They would paint me green and put the wig on and all the makeup and stuff like that. And so I actually got to be my own superhero, character on TV, which was great. And I'm actually friends with the Incredible Hulk, the original. So it was kind of like, once again, going back full circle to what you think about. I mean, because I literally thought I was the Incredible Hulk when I was a kid. That's all I thought about. So it's ironic that I actually became the Incredible Hulk. So you do get what you think about, whether you wanted it or not. Just remember that.
Wow. That is, I mean, I can't even imagine. That is so crazy. So who would you say that some of your mentors are in the animal world and in the bodybuilding world?
Right. Mentors in bodybuilding, not that anyone knows about that maybe on this channel, but I had, there was a Dr. Scott Connolly who was who invented and brought to market a product called Metrex back in the early 90s. And he was a real medical doctor who invented this protein supplement. So I always wanted to work for him because I felt he was the smartest guy that I knew. And I did eventually all I did was think about that too. And I used to bump into him in weird places, even though I lived in New York and he lived in California. We would bump into each other in the weirdest, like we would walk into like in Nebraska, I'd walk into like a restaurant and he'd be in there. It was like, it happened like 4 or 5 times. And
was
he
there
finally
like a competition there?
Yeah, there was like some kind of a meeting there for some. It was the oddest places. And eventually he said to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I think it's meant to be that I have to hire you. I said, I agree with you. And so that's how he gave me a job, and he was paying me like $50,000 a year to be his athlete. So that was a big mentor for me in terms of knowledge base wise. And then probably as far as bodybuilders go that I looked up to, Dorian Yates, who was Mr. Olympia at the time, was someone I really looked up to a lot in terms of trying to emulate, the way he looked. Obviously, I loved Lou Ferrigno and Arnold and all those guys. But in the reptile world, which is probably more relevant to this interview, Vin Russo was a big influence on me in terms of, how to breed boas. And it's funny because there's another really very, very good boa breeder, Mike Weitzman, and he was a bodybuilder too. So he and I knew each other from bodybuilding. I didn't even know he bred snakes, and he's probably one of the top boa breeders in the world. He's been doing it for years. And so he really helped me a lot, gave me a lot of good insights into boa breeding. And if I ever have a problem, I call him up, and he's a good problem solver because he's just, I mean, he knows everything about boas. So those two guys were really, really instrumental. I'm friends with Brian Barczyk too. I know him on a personal level, so that always helps. And, it's good because I am well known in terms of the bodybuilding world, and I do have good relationships with a lot of top breeders. If I need to pick up a phone or call like someone like Justin Kabilka or Ozzy, I've bought snakes from them, and we know each other. So it's nice to have that relationship with these people. But I would say as far as boa breeding, Vin Russo and probably Mike Weitzman, number 1 and 2.
Awesome. Is there anybody that you've had any tiffs with that you just, I don't know.
No, only in bodybuilding do I have tiffs with people. I don't have any tips with anyone in the reptile world. I get along with everyone. One guy ripped me off in the reptile world. I sent him some snakes, and he Western Union some money to me, and I should have. I'm so lazy because I'm so busy. I picked it up the next day, and it didn't. For some reason, it didn't go through, and the guy. I wound up getting screwed out of the money for this. The guy was like, I think, a drug addict or something like that. But I don't have any problems with. I really get along with everyone. I think that in terms of the reptile world, I know there's jealousy, and I know people badmouth each other and stuff like that. Yeah. I haven't had any bad experiences with anyone, although I'm sure there are people out there that are not good people that are in our world. Just it's like that in any field. I approach the reptiles differently than I do the rest of my life. I approach it still, even though it's a business, I approach it as my hobby. It doesn't pay my bills. It doesn't pay my mortgage. It doesn't pay my car payments. If I can just pay my rodent bill at the end of the month,
that's a good goal.
I'm happy, and I'm making money. I spent a lot of money the first couple of years getting good stuff. I'm making money now, but because I don't rely on it to pay my bills, it takes the pressure off of that. So as far as I'm concerned, my customers are always right. If they're not happy, I take back a snake. If they want something different, I exchange it. If something's not right with them, they're always right. And that I always tell people, in customer service, you have to understand the customer is always right, unless they're being ridiculous, unless they're trying to take advantage of you. That's a different story. Sometimes people try to charge back stuff, and that I don't buy into that bull crap. But If someone has a problem and they approach me, I solve the problem because I want all my customers to be happy. And if your customers are happy, you'll have a successful business. You can't, just because you have to pay that bill, your car bill, and someone gave you a deposit on an animal and they changed their mind, give them the money back. It's not worth,
Right.
unless it's been like a year or something like that and they've been stringing you along. Give them their money back. It's not worth having an enemy and arguing with some guy and then getting a bad review or something like that. Let the customers right, make them happy. That's what I do. And because I want everyone to have a positive experience with me, you know?
That's awesome. Do you ever go to the Mr. Olympia'S still?
Yeah, I go every year, except I haven't gone for 2 years now because of 2 years ago, my daughter was born, like a
Oh
week
yeah.
or two before, so I couldn't go because
Mhm.
my wife would have had a nervous breakdown, and it wasn't right there. And then last year with COVID, I haven't gone. Now ironically, they moved the Mr. Olympia from Las Vegas to Orlando, which is only a 3-hour drive
I
from me.
saw that.
But once again, I knew this was going to happen. I didn't go to the Olympia last year, and a lot of people got COVID there because
Mm.
large congregation of people. Everyone's got to take a picture with everyone in the bodybuilding world, and you know what
Lots of
happens?
sweat.
One of the tanners, the girls who were spray tanning people there, because
Yeah.
everyone, the bodybuilders get spray tanned, before they go
Right.
on stage. I think she had COVID, from what I understand, and she gave it to a lot of people. Now she didn't know she had it, but
Right, of
so
course.
it's not a good environment to be in when you have 3 young kids and all this stuff. So when everyone gets vaccinated and all that goes away, of course I'll be going back to. That's the Super Bowl bodybuilding.
So, how do you feel about the quarantine?
You know, I hate to say it, it hasn't really changed my life at all because I'm already quarantined. I have a separate building on my property. I have a very big piece of land, and we work from that upstairs. My wife and I do the nutrition company and my RX Muscle Media website. Downstairs is the snake snakes. I have them all downstairs. So my work is across my driveway, so I don't have to leave. The only time I leave the house is if we go to the supermarket or something like that, or buy groceries. We'll take the kids maybe to the playground outside, but I don't really go anywhere. So for me, the quarantine, and in Florida, is very lax, considering the other
Yeah.
states. So my life hasn't really changed. My business really hasn't changed a bit. I haven't really been affected because my nutrition company is a more of a health and nutrition type of. It's not really. It's really geared at good health. So
Mhm.
everyone's afraid of their immune system not being up to par because of COVID. So we're actually selling more products now,
Oh,
and
wow.
most of my business has been online anyway. So
Mhm.
for me, nothing has changed. But I do have a lot of friends who've been negatively affected by the quarantine. I have friends who own gyms that have almost
Mm.
gone out of business because they weren't able to open, especially in places like California and New York. So I really feel for them. I have a little gym in my house, nothing crazy, but at least I can work out there somewhat. But
Right.
I feel bad for the business owners. I really do, because I feel that if there shouldn't be a quarantine, I think if people want to go out, they should be able to go out. If they want to stay away from people because they're afraid of getting, COVID, then they can stay
Mhm.
away from people. It should be a personal decision.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. In Texas, I moved to Texas right before like we bought a house in July, so we
Oh,
left New
congratulations.
Mexico. Thank you, thank you. And we moved our whole zoo and our whole operation. Oh, dang it. So it was really interesting. I was actually afraid that they were going to close the border and that I was going to be stuck. And I had already taken a job here in Texas that started just a few days later. And so I was really nervous that I was going to get like trapped in New Mexico. But luckily it all worked out. It was really, oh, here's kind of a scam, I think. U-Haul sold me some kind of like border insurance where they said that I could so I was talking about how I moved pretty much wild like just before New Mexico lockdown, and
Right.
U-Haul sold me some weird like border insurance where they said we guarantee if you're in a U-Haul, if you pay $200 more, you can get across the border. And I was like,
Um,
okay, I'll take it because I don't know what's gonna
yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And it was really weird, but I believe also too that if people are fit and healthy and feel that it's worth the risk to go to the store. I understand that there are sick people out there, and that
Stay
if
home
I
if you're sick.
sneeze, yeah, if I sneeze in your face, that my germs might go and touch your germs. And
You don't have to go out if you don't. No one's putting a gun to your head and making you go out. You can order groceries; they'll deliver them to your house. So
mm-hmm,
let the people who want to go out, and let the people who want to stay home stay home. It should be a personal choice. I have a funny moving story. When I moved from New
let's
York
hear
to
it.
Florida, I had movers move everything, but I had all these snakes, and I didn't have a lot of
Uh-huh.
snakes at that point. I mean, I didn't have a ton of them. I had a decent amount, so I rented like a 26-foot truck, and I
Mm-hmm.
loaded them all in the back, and I kept them in their tubs because I was going to drive straight 24 hours from New York to Florida, and I put them all in there. I had a good friend of mine, my friend Cole Hanzik, may he rest in peace, not with us anymore, but he drove down there with me. We took turns, 24 hours straight. We get to Florida. Okay, I'm speeding this up, and I open up the back of the truck, and I see an albino olive python circling like on the top of the truck, like inside it. So the snakes had gotten out. Some of them. I don't know if some of the drawers opened up from the movement of from traveling.
Oh my gosh.
And we found everything except for one albino zebra carpet python, which I believe was eaten by the albino olive python. So I only lost one snake, but it was very stressful getting all the animals back in their enclosures. So
Moving
the
from New
take-home
Mexico to
message
Texas
is
was hard.
I should have taped all the drawers shut, or at least put them all in snake bags, but I was
Yeah,
too
I did
lazy.
tape mine, and still it didn't work.
Oh,
So
it didn't
we
work
were
either. Okay, I don't feel so bad.
no, not really. And we even like we like tethered all the racks because we keep
That's what I
everything on
did. I
wheels.
tethered them together. Yeah,
No, and it's still so. You saved a lot of trouble and only lost one snake.
that's
So
right.
I didn't lose any, but we had
Yeah,
a lot that we had to go looking for.
yeah,
You didn't hear that, U-Haul.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so
I'm assuming it was eaten. It might not have been. I just never found the one snake, so I don't know.
okay, you swept that truck out and there was no snake in there. So it's not like you returned a U-Haul with a deadly animal loose in the truck. So I would say that one of your snakes got a very expensive meal. I wonder if it tasted more delicious than the regular meals. I don't know. So Gypsy Boy is commenting up a storm. He wants us to know that he would love to show Dave all of his pets. And Aaron, he said that he was going to try and check out your channel. And he's saying that he wants everyone in the stream to go check out his channel and that he hopes COVID goes away soon. And yeah, I do too. So comment in the chat whether or not what you think about getting vaccinated. I got my first vaccination and I should be getting my booster pretty soon. So that's good because I'm a teacher. I was considered like a frontline worker because we're still teaching face to face where I live. And so that was good. I didn't have any terrible side effects. A few of my friends had some, well, they think it was from the shot, some kind of bad side effects. Um, but so far, I'm
Sorry about
feeling
that.
good
I don't know
otherwise.
what's going on with my computer today.
Oh, it's
So.
okay. I just keep on talking and then you pop back on and
I
all
try.
is well.
I do love StreamYard. I got to tell you, I use it too because if you do drop off, it keeps going and recording, which
Right.
is great.
Yeah, StreamYard's been pretty good for us.
You know.
I know I should just upgrade to the paid version.
I did.
Well,
You
or
know what?
no, I
You
think
should
we did.
do the pro version because the pro version you could actually do stream in 1080 too.
It seems like we did upgrade like 6 months ago. I haven't
No.
noticed a difference, but hopefully our
Oh.
viewers do. So, have you been vaccinated?
No, I'm playing because I don't go out. I'm playing the watch and wait. I
Yeah.
could do that. The problem is my son starts kindergarten in August, and I'm a little nervous about that once he does. So I might get vaccinated around then, but
Hmm.
I'm not sold on which vaccine is the right way to go yet. So if I can see another year's worth of people getting vaccinated and how they're responding to it, then I think I can make a better decision. Because right now people don't know what they're just getting vaccinated and they're saying, okay, let's see what happens. There's no
Right.
data. They haven't studied large groups of people getting vaccinated yet. So being in the medical field that I was and having a lot of knowledge about that, I'm a little concerned about the way some of these vaccines are working. That I'm not necessarily sure that I really want to get vaccinated yet, because if they don't, let's say if they don't work, and you're going to need to get a booster every year. I mean, that to me, that's not really getting vaccinated at that point. It's just kind of reducing maybe your chance of getting it, but it's really not making you immune to it. So do I really want to put that in my body if I'm not going to be immune to it? I don't know. That I'm still out to lunch on the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Interesting. Good to hear your medical perspective. Well, my husband works in a hospital, so
He
he was
has to.
one
He
of the
doesn't have a
first
choice.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm still teaching face to face, so he's
So
gotten
you
both
need it
of
too.
his.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Yeah,
I was a
I
healthcare
got.
worker, I would get it because there's no option at that point. But I can afford to take my time because I'm not really exposed to large groups of people. You know.
Right. So tell us about an animal that you would love to get into but don't for some crazy reason, like it's illegal or I don't know.
Uh, I don't. I always I like the big monitors, but you know what? I almost pulled the trigger a couple times. I'm glad I didn't because they'll probably ban that next year in Florida. But
Mm,
I like those albino water monitors, but they require a lot of work.
yeah.
Lizards, and I have some blue tongue skinks. Lizards are a
Oh,
lot
cool.
more work than snakes because they need to be given water every day. They eat every day. They poop every day. So it sounds good as a concept, but I don't necessarily know if I really wanted to do it because I at the end of the day, I think I would do it. I would be like, oh, this is cool, and then I would like, maybe I should never. Maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I bit off more than I can chew. So they're cool, though. I do definitely like water monitors. I think they have a lot of intelligence, and I think they kind of think about things. It's kind of
Oh,
like
they
having your
do.
own little dinosaur. That I was always into dinosaurs as a kid. I'm sure most kids
Yeah.
are, and my kids are consumed with dinosaurs. So I'm sure they would love it. But it's like having a dog. You got to pay attention to it. You can't just put it in a tub and maybe once a week handle it. It's something you got to work with every day. So it might
Mhm.
be too much to deal with at this point. I'm the kind of person that whatever I'm interested in, I do usually.
Mhm.
I would love to have that leucistic king cobra that Kevin McCurley has,
Yeah.
but I know that I would die because I'm very accident prone. So I would get bit and die probably. So that's why I don't have any kind of venomous snakes whatsoever. It's not even that I'm afraid about my kids. I'm afraid about me because I'm accident prone. And I
Hmm.
would certainly get bit by accident. And I know I have friends that have venomous and they get bit all the time. Not all the time, but they get bit at least once a year. And it's scary, and I don't want to have to I don't want my kids to tell people, yeah, my dad died. He got bit by a king cobra and then dropped
Right.
dead. So
Yeah.
I
Maybe a
wouldn't do
king's
that.
not for you. They're
Uh,
jerks.
yeah.
Kings are jerks.
I love I really love the boas and the ball python morphs. I'm like super consumed with like genetics. I was always like really loved genes and how they interact with each other, and I was very good at that in school. And so to me, those projects are really something that I can really wrap my hands around because I want to see. I like how trying to figure out how genes are going to react with each other and creating things that no one else has created. I know some people are into the purity of the animals, like
Mhm.
locality stuff. I
Right.
really like. I'm not embarrassed to say it because it seems like if you say you're into morphs, it's almost like like you're
Oh,
not a real
yeah,
keeper.
whatever.
I like
Locality's in style right now,
yeah.
but it'll
Yeah,
pass.
I like the morphs. I love the genetics of the morphs, and I like to see what combinations I can make and create new stuff and new colors. And I'm like an artist. I like to paint and stuff like that. Those are my so to speak my colors that I work with, and I like to try to create new art pieces, and that's really what gets me going right now. Now that could change in 5 or 10 years. I might get into something else. I don't know, but right now, I really enjoy that.
Well, that would explain why you have such a huge affinity for boas and ball pythons because,
Right.
I mean, it's really amazing. There may be as many morphs in boas as there are in ball pythons. There were just a larger group of people interested.
Yeah,
And,
I don't know.
you know,
That's ball pythons is an awful it's an awful lot of genes. I don't think there's anything even close to that in any other
I
breeding.
don't know. There's a lot of different looking dogs in the world, you
True,
know.
but I think I'm telling you, I think I've never seen as many morphs in anything as in ball python. And it's not like we've found them all. It's like every year there's like 10 new ones coming out still.
I know. Oh, I know. And of course, the combinations, once you start multiplying the combinations is
It's
yeah,
you could
like exponential.
Yeah, I like, a lot of people find it stressful. And at first I kind of did too. Like you want to try to keep up with everyone, but I like that you can do your own thing. So in other
Yeah,
words, I could create my own combination that's different than that person's. And then that person who might be the best in what they're doing will buy my thing and I'll buy his thing and then we'll breed them
yeah,
together. So it's like there's always some new guy on the block. You could be some guy who just started breeding and you could all of a sudden be the new guy that everyone wants what you got because you happen to produce something that no one else produced. And I think that's
yeah,
what's exciting about snake breeding is because you don't have to be around for 30 years. As a matter of fact, some of the guys that have been around a long time they don't keep up with the newest genes and then they actually fall behind even though they have the most time invested into the snake breeding
right.
game. So it really depends on what you're into is what I'm
Yeah, I
trying to say.
agree. So I was dying to ask you, but I didn't want to interrupt, and now my producer actually like typed it into the chat, so now I
No,
have to ask you what species your blue tongues are.
I have two Indonesians that are axanthic,
Mm-hmm.
or were they anery? Axanthic, I think, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're black and white, basically. And then I have an albino Eastern, and I have a just a northern, like a regular northern female. The albino Eastern is the male. So I bought these things, and I just started. I grew them up, and I'm like, you know what? I really would like to try to breed the Eastern albino to the axanthic Indonesian to try to produce double het snows.
Hmm.
As far as I know, no one's produced them in this country, at least. I think they're gorgeous. That's like to me that would, if I could produce a snow um, blue tongue, I would be. I don't even need to go beyond that. They're gorgeous in themselves. I like to just produce those. I can't get these things to breed. Now I don't know if it's because I don't have enough patience. I winter them. I get them down in temperature a little bit, even though
Mm-hmm.
the Indonesians don't really need to go really that cold. They do their brumation. They come out. They eat. They look healthy. I put them together. They don't have any interest in each other.
Hmm.
None whatsoever. There's no breeding behavior active. And like I said, I don't put them together every single day, but when I put them together, they seem to just ignore each other. They don't even attack each other. They just ignore each other. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I'll keep trying.
Well, from what I know, which is not much about blue tongues, we're trying to breed ours right now too, and I'm
right.
pretty sure we're already out of the window. So after brumation, the females have an estrus window of about 14 days in the
Oh,
whole
really?
year.
Oh, interesting. Maybe I'm missing
Well,
the window.
so I only have northerns.
Oh,
So I don't know. I mean, that may vary. That may vary a little bit, or completely. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we missed the window, which stinks because
maybe, yeah.
we we had big plans this
Hmm.
year, and our male got to us a little bit late, and our female was still cooling when
Oh,
he got here. So yeah, I think we missed the boat this year, but it's still exciting. And so
yeah,
we
I like
have
them. Yeah, I like
yeah.
them. It's probably better that they're not breeding because they require a lot more work and it's more space. But I have these four. My kids love them. Take them out. I like to play with them. Put it this way, they're very interesting looking pets. That's for sure. So even if I
They
don't ever
are.
breed them, they're gorgeous looking. They're all very good tempered. They don't try to bite me. So my kids are not afraid of them. And so and that's really the only lizards I have. So those are like kind of like my little like pet project, I could say. I'm not worried about it. If they breed, they breed. If they don't, I'm not gonna.
Right.
It's not the end of the world.
So tell me about their setup.
I went through a different thing. A lot of people keep them like I have some friends in Peter Birch and Colin. What's his name? Colin over there in Australia,
Hmm.
who breed them, and they keep them in vision tubs. Ball python vision
Right.
tubs, no
Hmm.
light, nothing. And I tried that, and you know what? I felt like they weren't really doing that well. They weren't eating that well in there. They were. It was stinky in there. I had to clean it every day. So I said, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to get them a setup where they can actually bask and see if that helps. So I bought these rabbit hutches on
Hmm.
Amazon, and I have them in rabbit hutches, believe it or not, with a basking light like attached to the side of the hutch, so they can go to one side and they can bask and heat up, and the other side they have like that little nesting box area like you would have in a rabbit hutch, and they have their own
Right.
hide box in there, and they can sleep in there and hide out in there. I put their food and water in there, and they seem to be doing very well in there.
Wow.
And that's how I keep them. I don't know if they if I'm not giving them enough humidity in there, but they seem to be doing well. They shed all right, and so I don't know. I don't think there's any right or wrong thing. Personally, I would like
Right.
to. I think
I agree.
maybe even keeping them outside might even do it. I was thinking about maybe doing that to try to get them to breathe better.
I've
Because
thought
the
about
floor,
that.
but I don't know if it gets cold enough here in Florida. I guess it does. It got pretty cold this year in Florida, so I don't know.
Ooh,
That might be a project I try next year.
interesting. Very interesting. I mean, there's a cajillion things we could talk about.
Yeah,
I love monitors. I like lizards. I like
yeah.
I like snakes.
I got about 10
Um,
more minutes before my kids break in here and they start attacking me and jumping on me. So
all right. Okay. So, think you've been super generous with your time. Thank you for that. So, I, so you said when you were little, you said in Long Island there wasn't a lot of wild, native wildlife that you were finding. Are you interested in herping? Like, do you like to go out and look for animals as an adult, or are you more into the captivity?
you know what? I do like the herping, and I haven't really got into enough. And the funny thing is, I could probably hold tours to herp in my backyard.
Oh,
That's how many things I have going on there. We have wild iguanas and Nile
oh,
monitors and
wow.
crockett alligators in the backyard and turtles and uh, pygmy rattlesnakes and cottonmouths and water snakes and black racers. I find and I don't even look for them, and then I find them on my driveway. I found more wildlife out in my backyard. I have bald eagles in my backyard. So
Wow.
literally, if I went out there at night with a spotlight, I don't even know what I would find. I know we have armadillos running around at night. I have wild peacocks like that someone had released. They run around squawking. They're like dinosaurs. These
Oh, dang it. Wow. What an amazing life. I do think it would be really awesome to live in Florida because of the wildlife, but the laws, torture. I think I will keep Texas. Well, D's Balls has come on. Let's see, Tarantinoli, maybe? Gypsy Boy is still on here. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being in the chat. It makes it a lot of fun. I think you guys are amazing. Gypsy Boy, I definitely think that people are going to be coming and checking out your channel. And I hope your male pie does breed with your female. And I don't think that I think it's really awesome, even if she is just a regular standard snake, because to me, any snake eggs are good eggs. So, all right, you're back. So, wow, it sounds like you live in the most amazing place. So, here what I
yeah,
propose: you come to my house and we can herp the desert, and then I'll go to your house and we
deal,
can herp the tropics.
deal. That as soon as COVID is over, if it
There
ever
we
is,
go.
it's a
Awesome.
deal.
Well, I know that you have a very tight schedule and
Yeah,
your time is precious. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show
my
and
pleasure.
sharing your awesomeness. Tell us the thing that you're most excited about working with you right now, and then how people can reach you.
I have a lot of good boa projects. With boas, it's not like ball pythons. You have to say a couple prayers because you never
Yes.
know if they're going to go or not. I still have yet to produce a super fire boa, which is a white leucistic black-eyed snake. I have a couple potential litters this year. I hope I get it. That's one of the ones I haven't been able to produce. I was one of the first people to produce actually the crystal boa,
Mm,
which is a super labyrinth. And I'm repeating that breeding this year. I hope that we get more super. They're like blue-eyed, crazy-looking, whitish looking
wow.
snakes. So those are exciting. I have a bunch of ball python stuff that you never know what I mean. I paired up a lot of crazy stuff. So I don't know. I got a bunch of cool stuff. I have a potential to produce a full moon carpet python, which is a moon glow, is a caramel albino axanthic. And I
Right.
produced one, I believe, last year. I think it's the first one in the US. I have the potential to produce a super caramel albino axanthic, which they call a full moon in
Wow.
Australia. So that's exciting. I might potentially, you never know, get an olive python clutch. I've been trying for 5 years for that. If I get it this
Ooh.
year, I really cooled those snakes down to like the low 60s this year. I'm praying that I get a clutch of those because I feel like a failure if I don't get those to produce. And so we'll see. I got a bunch of cool stuff that's potentially in the works. So
Awesome. 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 Well, so tell us what social platforms you are and the
Sure.
name of your YouTube channel. And then of course we'll link all of that below.
Thank you. Muscle Serpents University is the reptile channel, so you can check that out on
Mhm.
YouTube. Palumbo's Pythons is the Instagram. Palumbo's Pythons Boas is my Facebook. All my personal information, you can text me and cell phone and email. It's all on there. Also, on every video I put up on Muscle Serpents University, my contact info is on there as well. If you guys are into bodybuilding, you want to check out my bodybuilding channel, it's RX Space Muscle. rxmuscle.com is the website. If you want to check out my personal website for any kind of coaching for diet loss or anything like that, or any of my personal products I sell in there, that's davepalumbo.com. And my nutrition company, I have a lot of plugs, is speciesnutrition.com. Here's my
That's
isolized
awesome.
whey protein. So if you got to send me your address, I'm going to send you a little care package now that I know you work
Oh,
out of
yes, please.
nutritional
I was going
supplements.
to tell you, I know you have to go now, but I wanted to talk, like, I want to hear about your nutrition stuff.
That's another
Um,
interview, but yeah, I'm going to send you a whole bunch of stuff. So you're gonna text me your
Yay!
address.
Oh, I'm so excited. We're on like a new mission to lean down again in the gym, so
That's
I
right.
need your help.
I'm going to help
Okay,
you out.
awesome. All right, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for being here. I want one of your shirts too because it's awesome.
Absolutely. I'll send them. Remind me, send your size.
Awesome. Okay, all my love to you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
people,
much.
for letting him come be with us for a while. Hope you guys like this one, and we'll see you all next time.
Take care.
Thank you.